Hey everyone, it's me, Sean Capri, and today I am so excited to give you a review in progress of the Xbox Series X. There are a couple of games still making their way to being optimized for the Series X. There's still a couple features being worked out, which we'll get to in this video. And while you're here, I would love it if you gave a thumbs up, a like down below, leave a comment, subscribe to the channel if you haven't already. And without further ado, let's jump on into our review in progress for the Xbox Series X.
No power greater than X.
Well, here it is. It's the Xbox Series X. I've been playing this thing for the last 10 days or so, and this is how you launch a console. This is such a marked improvement over 2013 with the Xbox One. This thing does everything I want it to. It takes advantage of all the improvements and iterations that Xbox has been making since 2013, really since Phil took over. And this thing is a gamer's unit. The 4K, the 60 frames, the 120 frames in some cases. There is so much to explore with this thing. I hope you guys are ready. I hope your rig and your gear and your TV and everything is ready too, because there's a lot to go over here, so let's jump in. With the Xbox Series X, Microsoft kicks off the next generation of consoles with its most confident and ambitious offering yet. I noticed monstrous improvements in games like Gears 5, Forza Horizon 4, and Dirt 5. With that said, this review is in progress as I believe there haven't been enough games with Series X optimization to provide you with a final verdict. As it should be, the Series X is the definitive Xbox experience. The UI is identical on the Series X as it is on the Xbox One. It's just much faster. Players who have been with Xbox for many years have already experienced the evolution of the Xbox UI, and indeed, it has been vastly improved on Xbox One since 2013. Getting started with the Series X is simple enough, especially for Xbox One players. Actually, it's amazingly seamless. I actually have more trouble accessing my games from my two Nintendo Switch consoles and going back and forth there than I did moving from my One X to Series X. All my games, all my saves, my backgrounds, my preferences, everything is there on the Series X, and I don't have to think about or do anything to make it work. Right, so I said that the UI is exactly the same on the Series X as it was on the One X, and that familiarity is a double-edged sword. On the positive side, I know where everything is. There's no risk of starting this gen without a party chat or something like that. Remember on the Xbox One, it didn't have party chat. What was with that? Even my Xbox One controllers works, which is great because I spent a few $100s on my controllers in last gen. On the other hand, there really isn't any wow moment to be had by any players coming over from Xbox One because everything is so similar. Other than how quickly the system boots up, which is remarkable by the way. The new Xbox controller has been built with a similar continuity in mind, and as a fan of Xbox for many years, I love it. It's a no-frills, AA battery-powered, minimalist controller that looks nearly identical to the Xbox One controller, aside from a few additions. I love the D-pad, it's clicky and responsive, and it adopts that satellite dish form factor from the Elite controller, but with a bit of a more pronounced D-pad, of course. And at long last, the Xbox controller has a share button, sitting now in between the start and select buttons and just slightly below it. Yeah, I will continue to call them a start and select button. The Xbox Series X form factor is going to be a matter of personal opinion rather than anything close to an objective conclusion, but for me, I love it. It's a sturdy, balanced, and it's rock solid. I am team vertical, and the only drawback to that is the little rubber feet on the side that's there for those who are on team horizontal. And nothing is removable. The rubber stand, the foot on the bottom, you can't remove that. And the tiny little rubber feet there on all four corners on the side, you can't remove those either. They're going to be there, so regardless of what team you're on, you're going to be looking at some unsightly stands or rubber feet that are there for pretty much everybody. I would have liked to see that removed, but kind of a minor gripe at this point. For the purpose of this review, I upgraded to a 55-inch LG NanoCell LED TV featuring 4K HDR, Dolby Vision, and up to 120Hz capabilities. All the P's and the K's and all the things. I think that this was a great TV to review the Series X on. I connected the console using the new ultra high-speed HDMI cable, and I was able to play Gears 5 Versus in 120 glorious frames per second. But more on that in a little bit. This is an extremely powerful console with an unbelievable feature set that demands players to know a lot about their setup. It's likely that players will have to replace their current HDMI cable with that included ultra high-speed HDMI, and they'll have to ensure that their TV features HDMI 2.1 inputs to see the visual differences powered by the Series X. It's not quite as complicated as PC gaming. It's still all coming within that same console package, thankfully. But it's certainly more involved than what we were used to with the original Xbox One, particularly if you want to connect it to a home theater and experience Dolby Atmos surround sound and 4K 60 and HDR. To get everything, you really got to know what you're doing here. Now, it's difficult for me to make a recommendation for players with a 1080p screen, because there's no way around it. Players with older screens will be missing out on a lot of game-changing features like HDR10, Dolby Vision, 4K, 120 frames per second. They're simply not an option for gamers with outdated displays. And I don't have my hands on a Series S right now to directly compare, so I can't make recommendations for players with a 1080p screen on which one they should opt for. When I game on PC, I'm constantly checking my frames because unlike some superhumans out there, I can't always tell when I'm looking at 60 or 47 frames per second, but I like to know. And now that the option of 120 frames per second is there, I really want to make sure that I'm not simply succumbing to a placebo effect. I'm fairly certain that what I saw when playing Dirt 5 was 120 frames per second because they told me it was, but I would love for Xbox to be bold about when it's pushing out this next-gen feature. Speaking of next-gen features, Quick Resume. Surprisingly, it's somewhat of a mixed bag for me. When it all clicks into place and it works, it is pure magic. I want to do away with all the logo splash screens and warnings and press A to start, all of it. I want to get rid of all of it. Even if those load screens are faster, even if we're able to get into the games faster now with the SSDs being part of next gen, Quick Resume leapfrogs over all of that. And it's the feature I knew I needed, but I never would have been able to articulate that need for it. But it doesn't work for all the games all the time. How much it benefits you also truly depends on how you play. For instance, if you constantly go back and forth between Gears 5 or Call of Duty, you'll have a wonderful time with Quick Resume. However, No Man's Sky didn't work with it, and a few other games that are connected to a server all the time, they're not going to work with Quick Resume. Now, a few other games that I tried didn't work with Quick Resume that I think by all other definitions, they should have. Dirt 5 and The Outer Worlds probably should work. But I did receive notification that at this point in time, some games were not working with Quick Resume, and that's one of the reasons why this review is in progress. It's not to say that those games won't work for you on November 10th, but at this point in time, they're not, and apparently there is a patch coming to rectify this situation. The other point I'll be critical about Quick Resume is that I don't know, A, when I'm placing a game into the Quick Resume queue, so when it's actually going to work. B, when games are currently paused in Quick Resume, I can't see, there's no visual representation on like the game tile or anything like that that game is currently being paused or held in the Quick Resume world. And C, which games will be bumped out of Quick Resume if I add a new one in. I would like to see this feature refined in the future to have certain games pinned so they will never leave the queue. There's a game like maybe Forza Horizon 4 that I would love to just always have there. I don't want any game to remove that from the Quick Resume queue, and I'd love to see that refined in the future. This is all to say that I'm so glad Xbox is focusing on features like this rather than Snap with the Xbox One, as it focuses on games, and this is a feature that you can't really find anywhere else, even on superpowered PCs. Loading times are undeniably faster, particularly when comparing side by side with my One X, which I did on games like Grand Theft Auto 5, which was about a minute faster on the Series X, Red Dead Redemption 2, also about a minute faster, Final Fantasy 15 was a minute faster just going from the boot all the way to a brand new game. Even the boot on the system from a reset is over a minute faster than on the One X. Personally, I recorded nearly 10 load time comparisons, and each one made me audibly gasp or giggle by just how ridiculously fast the Series X was compared to last gen. That's not to say that these load times are instant, they're still there. They're just insanely faster than they were last gen, and I love it. And it doesn't end there. I have the terrible habit of checking my phone anytime I fast travel or die in a game, and I was pleasantly surprised by just how quickly Gears 5 returned me to the game after death. When I think about my time with Forza Horizon 4 back on the Xbox One X, while I had a lot of fun with it, I think about a lot of times waiting for load screens, waiting for a race to load up, waiting for the game to pop into place. And as I write this review, as I record this, I just went back to check to see what other games are there that are optimized, because I'm highly aware of how few there are right now. Forza Horizon 4 was just added just tonight. So I might have snuck away rather than continuing to write. I just played that for a little bit, and it was amazing. Running at 4K 60, it was incredible. The load times are so much faster. And for what it's worth, that's the racing game you should play on Series X on day one, because it comes with Game Pass as well. As someone with limited time to play games, these changes will really help me spend more time making progress in the games that I like the most. One of the many reasons this review is in progress, however, is because there were so few games for us to try that truly showcase the power of next gen. And it's going to take some more homework for me to discover which games from last gen have unlocked frame rates or are otherwise open to enhancements that don't require a patch or specific optimizations by the developer. So far, I've made reference to that, quote, optimized for Series X a few times, which means that the developers made specific changes to leverage the additional horsepower. If Gears 5 is any indication of what optimized for Series X actually means, then we're in for a real treat. Unfortunately, at the time of this review, there really weren't many options to peruse. The three that really I spent the most time with were Gears 5, Forza Horizon 4 just tonight, and Dirt 5. So similar to the Xbox One X, there is a category when you're looking at all of your games in your library, there is a new category that says optimized for Series X and S, and that's where you can really see some of these games jump up to as they receive their updates from Smart Delivery. Some games will be improved automatically by the Series X, such as back-compat titles receiving machine learning applied HDR, increased frame rate, and enhanced resolution. This is all great. And as someone who doesn't subscribe to the notion that old games are old, I'm thrilled by these improvements. But I do wish it was more clear which games were going to receive those improvements and which ones weren't, because at this point it's kind of a guessing game, and there is a serious chance of a placebo effect happening in the cases where there's actually no improvement happening at all. So just like the 4K HDR, all the things I was talking about earlier, I'd like to see a little bit more in terms of Xbox letting me know when some of these improvements are happening, rather than me trying to remember which ones are happening, or maybe even looking at what Digital Foundry is telling me where the improvements are all happening. That's going to do it for now, you guys, but there's still a ton of conversation to be had about the Xbox Series X, and we're just getting started. There's a bunch of games still coming online with their optimizations for Series X, and we'll be right here putting gameplay up on the YouTube channel, so hit the like, hit the subscribe button. I would really appreciate it. Leave a comment below, and I want to know, what game are you guys going to be playing on day one with your Series X? Are you still going to be buying a Series X? Is there something that we talked about today that excites you or frustrates you? What's on your mind? Leave a comment below, be part of the conversation. Subscribe to the YouTube channel if you haven't already. Thumbs up, all the things, guys. I really appreciate it. And thank you again to Xbox Canada for the chance to review this. Like I said, the discussion does not end here. Stay tuned, and we got more stuff coming your way.